House to Home, brought to you by Remax Diamond Realty.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. I have my dear friends Gina and Liz from Remax Diamond Realty Guam. Liz has the nicest bangs in all of Guam real estate, I must say.
Yeah, we agree.
And
it has to be in place when we do this show.
Yeah, and Gina, you can see her smile on the real estate signs coming a mile away and everything like that. But that's not distracted driving, by the way.
No, it's not. No.
Yeah, it's very, very
They're
nice.
focusing on the property.
Yeah, and well, the thing that both of you bring outside of extreme beauty to the real estate market is solid information. So let's continue our conversation.
We're not
ladies.
waiving the commission, Jace, just so we get that straight.
Okay, for the record.
Yes,
Of
for
course.
the record.
This is on the internet. It's
Yes.
good for all time. Okay, so we're going to continue our discussion from last week about property rights. Last week we took it from a developer's perspective. This week, can we address it from the perspective of the owner?
just the individual owners who might be looking at developing their property. Liz and I were talking about, we've got a piece of property on Cross Island Road that we're thinking of developing, and we've been tossing the idea around about, okay, well, it is agricultural subdivision, but we might be interested in building something there and putting a mom and pop store. So what's the process? Because that's kind of what we talked about last week. Is there already a process for this? And there already is.
Now, you said there was because there might be public hearings, there might be some regulatory stuff you have to go through. You said necessarily the courts only get involved if the dispute gets
if there's
out
a
of
dispute.
hand. But is there a more, I want to say a more civil way where you don't have to involve like all of these agencies? Can you go around to the neighboring or adjacent property owners and just say, this is what I'd like to do, do you have an issue with it?
So the zoning, if you're developing and you're developing within your zoning, what the zoning allows, you really don't need anybody's permission except to go get the necessary permits, right? But in the instance where I want to go beyond my zoning, I'm saying, listen, I know what my zoning is, but I want to build something that's outside of that scope. Not only do you have to go through all the agencies, and you have to go through every single agency and clear all of them, 7 agencies, but you also have to notify within a 500 feet radius all your neighbors. Hey guys, I'm going to build a mom and pop store on my lot. What do you think? And that's where the public hearings come into play, and people can come and say, well, you know what? That's what you want to do, but we're not going to let you do it. We disagree.
So
that's the process.
So what I was saying, if you actually tried to go around, and not to be sneaky or shady, but Liz, if I went around to the adjacent property owners and said, hey, these are my plans and everything like that, I could actually be causing more of a headache for myself.
No, not necessarily so. I mean, sometimes it's the neighborly thing to do, to just say,
you're being
hey,
proactive.
You're being proactive, and you want to make sure you don't encounter any issues when you go through the permitting process. So if you don't have too many around you and you want to notify them and just say, hey, I'm going to do this, and they might turn around and say, yeah, we need a store. We don't want to go 5 miles down the road when I need a box of salt or something.
So it doesn't hurt to do that, just informally.
It doesn't hurt.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. And I think some of the issues crop up with neighbors when it's a huge development that has a bigger impact. But when you're talking about a small lot for a store or a single family home, normally that doesn't create too much of an impact unless that particular neighborhood is already encountering water shortages, water pressure issues. Then it's understandable that there'll be some complaints because there's not enough pressure to feed. In fact, the government does have a process or a procedure that if your PSI is lower than 45, then your water pressure is low, then therefore either a booster pump or something's required. But there is a process and procedures to handle that.
Let me throw a worst case scenario at the both of you. So say I have property and there are 10 other property owners around my development, and I bring an idea to them. 5 of them are in favor with me, so we've got 6. 5 of them are against the idea. Does that mean by virtue of majority, if we were to go to like in a public hearing, then my idea would come to pass? Does it work that simple? Is it just?
I don't think it's necessarily that. I think when number one is, do you have the right to do it? Does your property conform with the zone? And if everything comes into place in terms of the permitting, I pay all the fees, I got all the government clearances, that has more weight, and versus my right to develop my property to create a certain project. So if everything's in place and it's a small scale, those are inconsequential. It's not going to impact the neighborhood. So I think that would have more weight. And if the government gives me all the permits, what's to prohibit me from doing my project? So, Gina, what did you think?
Well, plus I think the thing that people forget about, there was a piece of property that was developed in Barragata. It was a very small piece of property, and the landowner went to the government and said, I would like to build some townhomes on this lot. There weren't any protests at the public hearing, so he went from agricultural to R2. And in doing so, the government said, hey, listen, we're going to allow it. Nobody really protested. We're going to go ahead and allow it, but you need to upgrade the infrastructure in this area. This is what you need to do, ABC. So in order for him to actually do the development, he had agreed, I'll bring in the sewer line, I'll upgrade the water line. These things are a benefit to the neighborhood. So now the infrastructure is there. The government wouldn't have done it. The government doesn't do that.
So it actually sounds like this is a the perception is it's a daunting problem, but it's actually quite easy to do. I mean, it's as easy as just having a neighborly conversation.
If it fits within the permitting process.
It's easy, but it's time consuming and it does cost money.
Costly.
Okay, well, tell you what, just to make sure that you don't make the wrong decision, you can call Liz and Gina at RE/MAX Diamond Realty Guam. They're the friendliest people with the best hair. I want to add that again. They really, really good hair and really nice smile.
Just like Jason's.
Just like Jason.
Hey, so give them a call and then they will set you straight. We're back.